A blind man proved a devastating point to the world with his service dog. For those with healthy eyes, it's impossible to know the struggle blind people can face when completing even simple tasks. So one Londoner actually figured out a creative way to show the world just how difficult it can be. Animals have a lot to teach us. Oliver Gibbons lived in the coastal town of Devon, England, where he frequently took walks through the town's market area with his dog, Sydney. Sydney wasn't just a loyal dog. Oliver's well-being actually depended on her. Sydney was well-behaved and spent most of her life with Oliver. She was his seeing eye dog. Oliver was blind, and Sydney helped him navigate the world he could not see. All too often, blind people don't get enough exercise because they're hesitant to make their way around, but it's important they do explore the world. Oliver took frequent walks, but on one afternoon, he faced an unfortunate dilemma. When Oliver and Sydney took their strolls through downtown Devon, they usually stopped at a small eatery or coffee house before heading back home. Places in Devon were usually great about letting dogs hang out with their owners. So why, he figured, would local coffee chain Cafe Nero be any different? Well, when Oliver asked for a bowl of water for Sydney, the server refused. Oliver immediately left, feeling completely disrespected and embarrassed. When he returned home, he told the whole awful story to his good friend Helen Fox. Helen helped Oliver with day-to-day living, and she was irate when she heard how Cafe Nero treated her friend, so she paid them a visit. She expressed her disgust with the manager, and while they did understand her frustration, they explained having dog bowls in the restaurant was a health violation. This didn't fly with Helen. She took to social media and shared her anger. Eventually, word reached the RSPCA, who contacted Helen. They were exactly the kind of people Helen needed on her side. They wrote a very concerned letter. It's extremely concerning to hear that a coffee shop refused to provide drinking water for a service dog whose handler was a customer, the letter read. We would expect all businesses to show kindness and compassion towards all animals, but particularly to service dogs. Cafe Nero was lucky Oliver didn't take them to court over the incident, because he had every right to. Unfortunate instances like this happen to blind folks all over, but communities never really found out. One man sought to change that. His name is Amit Patel. The 37-year-old London resident was a doctor up until 2012 when he lost his vision due to a degenerative disease. He too has a trusty dog to help him. Her name is Kika, and she helps him navigate his way through the bustling London subways almost every day. As talented and knowledgeable as Kika is, their journeys together are rarely problem-free. Even though it's obvious Amit is blind, people are so concerned with themselves they don't take the time to understand he does things a bit slower. Commuters are often quick to get impatient with them both. So Amit had a great idea. People truly had no idea what he and Oliver Gibbons went through on a daily basis, so he got himself a GoPro camera. With the help of his wife, he strapped it to Kika's back. Then they were off for their morning adventure. Not only would Amit now have the chance to show the world the struggle of blind people, but he also hoped it could lead to more compassion. Just as expected, the camera picked up footage of people bumping their way past Amit with no regard for his safety. Some were even rude to Kika, but there was something else that actually brought Amit to tears. At one point, he entered a crowded subway, and believe it or not a single rider gave up their seat for him. Amit was forced to find something to brace himself on, and it was even worse for Kika. Usually the dog would sit underneath his legs so she wouldn't bother anyone, but she had to sprawl out in the middle of the subway car, which only further annoyed people. It was a shocking experience, to say the least. Luckily, Amit made it home safely. He put the footage on YouTube, and just like he expected, people were upset over what they saw. He hoped the experiment brought about a more patient and inclusive attitude for him and others like him. Service dogs do wonders helping the blind go about their day without the fear of suffering an accident. But one blind man named Daniel Kish actually taught himself something that completely alleviated his need for a dog. Although life gave him lemons at a very young age, Daniel Kish has overcome major setbacks, created a scientific breakthrough, and has inspired thousands of people with his optimism. When Kish was still an infant, he developed retinoblastoma, a type of cancer that attacks the cochlea. Before his first birthday, both of his eyes were removed to keep him alive, and he was left completely blind. Kish never wanted to go the sunglasses route, so to avoid stares from strangers, he received prosthetic eyes. They could not help him see, but he found his own loophole around that. After one of Kish's many surgeries, he woke up in the intensive care nursery. The blind boy climbed out of his crib and began to wander the halls of the hospital. Without any type of assistance, he managed not to bump into a single thing. As a toddler, he once woke up in the middle of the night, got out of bed, and walked towards his window, opened it without hesitation, and climbed out of it into the yard. Clearly, this didn't satisfy his curiosity because he continued to hop the fence and sneak onto his neighbor's property. Although the neighbors didn't press charges against the blind 2-year-old trespasser, he did cause quite a ruckus. When a police officer returned him safely to his parents, they couldn't believe what had happened. What 2-year-old, let alone a blind one, can hop several fences in the middle of the night? People soon began to realize how exactly Kish was getting around without hurting himself. He was making continuous clicking noises with his tongue as he moved about. Doing this makes an echoing sound in your mouth, but also creates an echo in the environment. This echo hits nearby objects and walls and bounces back, similar to the sonar of a bat. Echolocation is not common in humans because those who can see can't hear well enough, but when one loses a sense, the others strengthen.